Housing Development Program. It's number one and the best. Housing Development Program. Number one. Number one. Housing Development Program. It's number one and the best. Housing Development Program. Number one. Housing Development Program. In Nigeria. Housing Development Program. In Africa. Housing Development Program. And the globe. Number one. Housing Development Program.
The year 2023 will undoubtedly be remembered as a year of unprecedented challenges and change for individuals and businesses across all sectors. Notwithstanding, we'll keep pushing as we usher in the year 2024. Happy New Year in advance. This is Housing Development, the only TV program that gives you all the information on housing. As always, I am Flora Ani, your housing diva. Before we dive into the business for today, let's see the news making rounds in the sector.
In a bid to foster private sector collaboration towards bridging the housing deficit gap, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with a consortium to deliver 100,000 affordable housing units across the nation. The MOU signing, which took effect at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja, marks a milestone for the ministry's action plan in view of its renewed Hope Cities and Estates projects. In his remarks, Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, noted that the MOU was a result of months of hard work and strategic planning, resulting in a robust framework to ensure the PPP arrangement was structured to succeed. The minister further touched on the job creation component of the project, noting that it is in line with the vision of President Bola Tinubu to raise 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Notably, the PPP arrangement will create 2.5 million direct and indirect jobs at 25 jobs per housing unit.
I'm really excited today because after several months of strategic planning, engagements and hard work, we are today set to set a record, a significant milestone in our quest to deliver on the renewed hope vision of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for housing and urban development. In a short moment, we'll be signing a memorandum of understanding with a consortium of very highly reputable developers led by Continental Civil and General Construction Company Limited and Cesarly Limited for the delivery of 100,000 housing units across Nigeria. The housing units are to be delivered under the Strategic Public-Private Partnership, PPP, as part of our renewed Hope Cities and Estates program.
For more housing, finance, and construction news, do well to visit www.africanhousingnews.com. The year 2023, like every other year, typically has a few defining moments, and the year has seen its first share of major events in the housing sector. Now, here is a throwback of some major reports that borders on the housing sector we had this year.
As news of the building collapse at Gwarimpa in the Federal Capital Territory continues to unfold, critical stakeholders and members of the public have continued to react to the developments. National President of Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, NITP, builder Nathaniel Atebije, explains implications of the brazen breach of the city's master plan.
It is dangerous for anybody to venture to tamper on the green areas of the city, particularly Abuja.
For the Executive Director, Housing Development Advocacy Network, HDAN, Festus Adebayo, there are even more fundamental issues that must be addressed by relevant authorities.
This particular site is a reflection of corruption in Nigeria, the systemic corruption in Nigeria. Looking at it critically, you see that the reinforcement is below the standard. Then the question you ask is there no monitoring team?
The National Bureau of Statistics' latest report states that Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP, growth declined to 2.31% in the first quarter of 2023. In an interview with some traders in Lugbe area of Abuja,
surviving, but something is very costly.
This is the story of Samuel Godstein, a clothes seller in Gudu Junction, who said he cannot depend on one source of income to survive in Abuja.
It's just that I got a passion for the business right from time, and considering the cost of living, you know, the income we realize now is not even up to our needs, up to handling our needs.
For the third time in 4 years, some parts of Trademore Estate located in Lugbe area in Abuja, the nation's capital, was flooded in the early hours of Friday, 23rd June 2023. This has caused a major source of sorrow and pains to the residents. Several houses were submerged, vehicles and properties were damaged by the flood. The chairman, Trademore Estate Phase 3, Dr. Adewale Adenike, has called for a round-table discussion among stakeholders.
It's a very sad incident because when you have people losing everything they've worked for and also the loss of life, and this is a recurring decimal. It's happening every year. It was a sad thing.
Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa is recently appointed as the Minister for Housing and Urban Development by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, having served in the sector for several years. In honor of his appointment, stakeholders in the housing sector recently held an agenda-setting dinner for him. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, expressed gratitude for the warm reception by housing stakeholders. He promised to deliver on the mandate of housing.
Indeed, we are facing numerous challenges, but with challenges come a lot of opportunities for growth and development and progress. With rapid population growth in the country, the demand for housing in our nation is ever increasing, and it is our duty to rise to the occasion and meet these needs head on. Along with the vision of His Excellency, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, I promise to take bold steps, champion strategic housing reforms, and break systemic barriers to housing and urban development.
After much thoughts, she decided to relocate to the FCT in search of a better life with her family 9 years ago. Her story today is far from her dreams and expectations. Mercy and her family found themselves in the Dudumetri Apo district of Abuja, where she now sells vegetable and other foodstuffs to support her husband to take care of the family. Not being able to continue with her skills as a hairdresser for lack of funds, or even pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. On arrival at their one-room apartment, we discovered that the room was not well ventilated, as the only window available could not open.
Mama, now okay. Open your window and I'm going to get lights.
The window is not okay. If I open it, it will fall down.
What happened to it?
The iron has it off. So we need to weld it now.
So you sleep here without opening this window every day?
On the fan.
You on the fan? So when
There's
no lights, you sleep like that?
Yes, or I open the door.
The program is housing development, and advocacy on this program is to ensure that all Nigerians have access to decent, safe and affordable housing, especially the low-income earners. As our culture is on the program, we visit different locations each week to seek the view and opinions of Nigerians on the street. Now here's a look at some of the topics that we showcase on Voices on the Streets.
Looking at the construction industry right now and looking at what we have, I don't think that is on ground. Government have to provide because they have government has all it takes to provide this house for us.
No, when you talk about affordable housing in Abuja, you cannot compare that because housing are not affordable in Abuja. Because compared to other places, it's very expensive. You know, a first timer or a newcomer here in Abuja will find it very difficult to live in. Because if you don't have a family member or you don't have a friend where you can squat with for a while, or you get a job in a very good place where your employer can house you. That's the only reason why you can come into Abuja as a first timer and be able to stay.
If I have the money, I would actually like to pay. After all, I'm still going to pay when the time comes. But if I don't have the money and I feel like you're trying to rob me of my rights, I actually think I would pursue that to the very last to actually make sure what is due to me I get, even if it means me leaving the house at the end of that tenure.
On the very good ground, the landlord himself does not have such right to put any tenant on such compulsion to pay the money. But what the landlord can do, if he can have a better understanding with the tenant to say, okay, please, I have such need that I don't know if you can assist me for at least an advance of 1 year rent, and the tenant is willing, the tenant can do. But the condition of putting any tenant under compulsion to pay an advance payment when your rent has not expired, the landlord does not have that right.
This time around, we don't trust, so I would even prefer to build by myself. The supervisor will be there to know what is going on. Sometimes this time around, we don't trust government. So I would prefer to build by myself.
For me, I think I would prefer to build my house myself because I'll do it in a way that it will get to my tastes. I'll do it to my tastes. But if someone does it, I might not really like both the color, the painting, and then the structures. I may not appreciate it. So I prefer to do it myself.
Okay, I would like to build by myself.
Now I want to say, happy holiday to all stakeholders in the Nigeria housing industry, in Nigeria, in Africa, and across the globe.
This is your housing diva. To all my lovely viewers, I'm wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year.
Merry Christmas
and a prosperous New Year.
Welcome back. Amidst all the uncertainty the year 2023 brought, it is undeniable that it has impacted the housing sector positively and negatively too. Some major housing events took place this year. Here is a throwback of two major events that shaped the sector this year. Happy viewing.
I am delighted to welcome you all to the 17th edition of the Africa International Housing Show. Housing challenges all over the world has continued to be an issue of discourse amidst population explosion, especially in urban centers, rising global crises, conflicts emanating from wars, terrorism, national disasters. In the face of this crisis, shelter will continue to be ranked universally as one of the basic needs of mankind after food, and it will remain strategic asset to man, irrespective of socio-economic status, color, or creed. Africa International Housing Show, as a leading problem-solving platform, deliberately chose this year's theme, Beyond Rhetorics to Home, Making Housing Happen, to address various issues facing the sector and provide the practical and lasting solutions to myriads of housing challenges. It is time, therefore, to work together as stakeholders to holistically tackle our housing problems. Housing sector have potentials that can be tapped for driving our economic recovery if only we choose to get our acts together and tackle housing deficits and affordability challenges. I wish all participants an enjoyable conference and deliberations with the exciting exhibitions that we have on the sidelines and the ambience of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Enjoy the best of Africa International Housing Show this year. Thank you very much.
Today we gather here to address a critical and pressing issue that lies at the heart of our nation's progress and development. The challenge of housing in Nigeria. The theme for our discussion is Beyond Rhetorics, Making Housing Work in Nigeria. The housing situation in Nigeria demands urgent attention. Rapid population growth, urbanization, inadequate urban planning, bureaucratic recidivism, and insufficient funding have all contributed to the housing crisis that many Nigerians endure daily.
So this year's theme, Beyond Rhetorics to Homes, Making Homes Happen, it shows indeed that it is time to move away from rooms like this one to realities, to action. We need to really put our hands together to execute and deliver affordable housing for our populations who are in dire need for those homes.
For this year's conference, Beyond Rhetoric to Homes, Making Housing Happen, could not have been more apt, considering the urgency of bridging Nigeria's housing deficit and accelerate actions towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 11 targets across the continent.
It is noteworthy that exhibitors from a number of countries are reportedly registered to participate in this exhibition, and this qualifies it as one of the largest convergence of stakeholders in the build sector in the sub-region.
It is important to mention that the current state of housing in Nigeria is quite underwhelming. As you know, it is self-evident that we have a huge housing deficit presently in Nigeria. The lack of affordable housing finance is a major problem. In order to access a mortgage in Nigeria, you would need to have a large down payment. For many Nigerians, this often is a serious burden. Consequently, a majority of Nigerians are excluded from access to housing finance.
It is only when we solve the housing problem sustainably can we really develop and move onward as a nation. I thank you very much and I say God bless you. And on this note, and without further ado, I would like to declare this convocation open. Thank you very much.
5th edition of the Africa Housing Awards Industry End-of-Year Dinner 2023, which took place at the International Conference Center, Abuja, recognized and honored major key players in the housing industry, stakeholders in the housing and mortgage sector, presidents of professional bodies in the construction industry, former ministers, members of National Assembly, advocates, business tycoons in Nigeria and Africa, including inductees of Affordable Housing Hall of Fame. Giving his goodwill message for the day, the Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, was duly represented by the Chief of Staff to the Honorable Minister Alhaji Shehu Usman Osidi, took a special moment to commend and thank the host and organizer of the Africa Housing Awards, Barrister Festus Adebayo, for his patriotism, passion and contribution to making sure that stakeholders across the entire housing value chain are monitored and held accountable for the development and success of the housing sector in Nigeria and Africa at large.
I would like to thank the organizers of the Africa Housing Awards, the Housing Development Advocacy Network, for inviting me to deliver a goodwill message at the 5th edition of this annual event. I sincerely believe that the task of developing Africa's housing sector, ensuring increased access to decent and affordable housing, is a collective endeavor. It is a patriotic job that requires the contribution, active participation and monitoring of all stakeholders across the entire housing value chain, from developers, mortgage bankers, development finance institutions, government-owned housing institutions, housing policy leaders, advocacy institutions and groups, and so many others. We are all part of the housing ecosystem, and all that we do in our various spaces and areas of responsibility impact positively or negatively on our collective desire to build a better and functional housing system that works for Africans.
The welcome address of the day was delivered by the chairman of the Africa International Housing Show, AIHS, Savia Suleiman Hassan. He charged the awardees to keep working harder and not to think of themselves as the best, but rather they should see it as more work to be done.
I want to welcome you to this year's edition of the African Housing Awards. It's the 5th one in the series. What we simply do is look at the industry, knowing very well how much it impacts on our society, creating wealth, creating houses for the general public, and evaluate the performance of the industry players to see what they have done wrong and what can be done better.
The underlying focus of the day was the presentation of awards to notable individuals and companies who have contributed to the success and development of the housing industry in Nigeria and Africa. Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company was awarded Africa Housing Finance Company of the Year. Other awardees are Housing Industry Political Leadership of the Year 2023, Right Honorable Abubakar Kusada, member representing Kankia, Ingawa, Kusada Federal Constituency. Most Admired Real Estate Brand in 2023 was Copen Group. Lifetime Achievement Award, Construction Industry, Builder Samson Ame Opalua, Chairman Kobon. Construction Person of the Year 2023, Alhaji Zubeiru Bayi, Best President of Professional Bodies 2023, Estate Surveyor Jambul O Amayebo, and Town Planner Nathaniel Atebije. Commissioner for Housing of the Year 2023, Honorable Maruf Akinderu Fatai, Lagos State Ministry of Housing. Consumer Choice Awards, Best Porcelain Tiles of the Year 2023, CDK Integrated Industry Limited. Mortgage Bank of the Year, AG Mortgage Bank PLC, amongst others. To add more spice to the awesome night was a cultural display, followed by enjoyable jokes by some comedians to unwind and relax the guests. The host and organizer of the 5th edition of Africa Housing Awards and Industry Dinner 2023, Barrister Festus Adebayo thanked all of the dignitaries, stakeholders and awardees from Kenya, Ghana and Liberia for gracing the event.
We want to thank all our stakeholders from Kenya, from Ghana, from Liberia, who took time to be here at all cost in this year's event. We wish you a very safe journey back to your countries. We also want to thank all our awardees for this year. The award is basically to encourage you to do more for the development of housing industry. We hope to see you winning more in your other endeavors.
It's good news. Are you a stakeholder in the built environment, or you are looking for an authentic, credible source for housing and construction news in Africa? You now have an opportunity. Africa International Housing Show has now created a unique opportunity for you by establishing a full-fledged housing television, the first of its kind in Africa. You can now access information on home ownership, rental, building materials, finance, real estate and insurance, among others, all on Housing TV Africa, channel 149 on StarTime.
That is it on today's edition of the program. A big thanks to all the Housing Development Media crew. Thanks for making this program possible each week. And to my executive producer, I appreciate you. And to all my lovely viewers, thanks a lot for keeping a date with me each week. Let's all stay safe as we unwind and be merry this season. See you in 2024. I remain your housing diva, Fleur Arnie. Happy New Year.